Yay. Okay. So I just want to know by like a raise of hands how here's Chris. Chris is here. Can y'all add him in as well?
Adding him now.
Chris, you gotta start your video too. How many of y'all, if y'all raise your hand, were here for my class? Well, it was it ended up being a class last year, or the panel I did on music business, or any of y'all in there? I just want to see you raise your hand. Maybe some, maybe not. But anyway, it was really,
Sorry, I
hey
don't know if you can
Chris,
hear me. I'm trying to get my
we
audio together.
we can hear you perfect. So first of all, let me just introduce myself. My name is Stacy Epps. I'm an artist, an attorney, music business activist, water activist, spiritual person, and just in all ways, it's like so many things. You all could see I even have a harp here. But I love, just working for fairness and allowing. I'm trying to like record this on live too, but fairness for artists and finding ways to make and essentially revolutionize and transform the music industry into a fair space. And so, honestly, when I first heard about first before it was even
Testing,
NFTs,
testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
we hear you, but you just
Okay,
muted
good. Sorry
again.
about that. Okay.
It's okay. But when I first heard about crypto art. That was before NFTs. But when I first heard about crypto art, my mind was blown. I'm like, what is crypto art? Like that was how it was first introduced to me. And actually it was introduced to me by someone named Rare Skrilla. That's how I first learned about it. I know Chris, you know him. Um, and then I eventually continued to learn and mostly a lot through Clubhouse, which is where I met Keith, which is where I met Chris. And it has just been an amazing journey. It's such an exciting space that everyone wants to know more about. And, we're here to explain the general concepts and then also kind of like break down some of the misconceptions and really be realistic about how it works. I think a lot of people have a conception that it's just kind of like get in and grab that dollar. No, it's it's not that. Just like with any other, art form, honestly, you have to market, people have to know it's there, so we'll talk about all of this stuff, but that was kind of a long intro. But I want to also then take the time and introduce my panelists. Oh, and real quick, we're also talking about music coding and what music codes. And me and Kevin had a conversation about that. I prefer to call it metadata. I know Keith prefers to call it metadata, and we'll talk about that more too. That is so important, especially in the digital world. So we're going to touch on that very, very important point as well. So with no further ado, let me introduce my panelists. So I'll start to my immediate right. Keith Kirk has worked in the music business since 2008, specifically in the area of metadata. So he's like a straight up expert in this area. He worked with companies such as Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, BMG, Cobalt, the International Copyright Enterprise in Berlin, Germany, 21st Century Fox, National Geographic, wow, Tova Music Group, the November Society, and PPL UK. And a quote from him is, "Your success in music is directly determined and proportionately predicated on the quality of your metadata." He said that the success of your music is I can't even say the word, predicated on the quality of your metadata, honestly. And we'll get more into that. And we also have Christopher Moye, who is an attorney, a serial entrepreneur, and corporate strategist. He focuses primarily on blockchain tech, entertainment, rare digital art, NFTs, and cryptocurrency policy/governance. He represents several of the top NFT artists in the world. Several of his clients have presented NFTs at Christie's and Sotheby's, and he advises several blockchains and protocols on projects, talent acquisitions, and community growth strategies. Y'all give it up for Chris and Keith, and I have to pull up. Y'all, I'm so sorry. I have so many windows. How many of y'all do that? Just have like a million windows open. I'm trying to find
All the
Alpha.
time.
I could say, I know. I mean,
You could just do it. You can just do it.
bio.
Just talk about me. Just, whatever.
I mean, I know it, but I just want to do how you have it here.
I can't, these guys.
Okay, I found it.
Just Sotheby's and Christie.
So Alpha,
This guy.
Oh, that's good.
So this is what, let me tell you, his bio says Alpha23 is a dynamic, one-of-a-kind rap star hailing from today's music mecca, Atlanta. He touches down with a sound best described as classic Southern hip hop plus razor sharp delivery and melody rich production. That is one of the things. That's not a full bio. Like,
that's the thing that matters, though. I'm here as the artist, not anything else.
Okay, no, you're not. Not just artist, no. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no. So just so I can add, Alpha23 is also a businessman, an entrepreneur, as well as a strategist and a thought leader in the space. So I have to put that out there because that needs to be in the bio. So anyway, Now moving forward.
Work my bio.
So anyway, moving forward, I think we should kind of like start in metadata, which is, I feel like, the foundation of kind of like having your information straight, and then move more into NFTs. So can we start with one question for Keith? How would you define, like, what is metadata, and how would you kind of define that or classify that for people?
So hi, thanks for having me, Stacy, and everyone else. Good to see you, Alpha23. So when you go to the grocery store and you pick up, I don't know, Apple Jacks you got over there, you got Kellogg's cornflakes, and most people will look on the side and read the ingredients, right? And you may see the manufacturer or the ingredients, other information about the product. That is metadata, right? So there's metadata everywhere we go. Everywhere we look at, everything you look at, everything you have in your hand, there's metadata everywhere. So in music, it's the same thing, no different. Everything that's related to that song that you create is metadata. So the first piece of metadata that begins to form is when you start writing that song, right? From the time you start writing that song, even if it's not finished, right? That is the beginning of your metadata. When the song is finished, and then you put the date, who it's written by, and if you collaborated with someone, you'll put that other person's name, right? All of that encompasses metadata. And essentially, the traditional definition for metadata is information about information. So name, Alpha23, song title, crazy, genre, rap, duration, 3 minutes, 5 seconds, label, Arista Records, whatever, right? So that's one set of information that contextualizes another set of information. Which is very boring. It's very boring. It's the most boring part of the music business. It's like watching paint on the wall dry. But without this, there is no music business, essentially.
I mean, because you have to think about, like, Alpha, how many tracks did you say are released or distributed a day? You told me that number. Like, how many a day?
Spotify is getting about 65,000 tracks uploaded a day now.
So 65,000 tracks uploaded per day. This is just on Spotify. Now, how in the heck are you supposed to keep track of all of these songs? And generally, I would be one to say probably 60,000 of those tracks, if not more, are using a pre-made metadata from a distributor. So let's first just real quickly break down the main different types of metadata that are most important for your songs. Like, what would you say are the top? I think there are 3 main ones, but
I mean, there's more than 3. You got publishing metadata, you got song metadata, you got
break it down.
Yeah, you got master rights metadata. So you got the first, the first one, the first set is like name, song title, duration, genre, label, producer, mixing, mastering engineer, all that kind of stuff. Contributor, metadata, all that.
Those are like credits. The credits.
Those are like the credits, and then you have the publishing information, which label, which what is the label deal? What is this? What is that? All that stuff is underneath and undergirded, right? But you raise a very good point in saying, Alpha saying there's 65,000 songs or however uploaded every month, right?
Day.
Every day. There's 7 million artists in the world. It's 100 million songs that are uploaded every year, right? Which is, you're talking about billions of streams to calculate where this revenue needs to go, and trillions of lines of data to troll through, right? So there's not, when I'm sitting in the Sony office, I'm not saying, oh well, Stacy's song has come in. Let's check how much money she's got. And Alpha's songs has come in, and Chris's songs has come in. No, it's all done on databases. When it comes in, it's all processed over by computers and data and databases and all that kind of stuff. So if the metadata is wrong, the computer is going to see it like that, and it's going to say, well, this is not matching up with Chris's information. This is not matching up with Stacy's information. Don't pay out. Right. That's the major problem in this music business. We can't find the right person. We can't find the publishing information. The name's wrong. The name is spelled wrong. So it could be S-T-A-C-Y or S-T-A-C-E-Y, S-T-A-C-I. Which one is it, right? And a lot of people, what happens is artists are putting out stuff. They make a mistake. They think they have to go and take it down, put it back up. They put something else on so that when the algorithms and the databases are trying to read your information, they're getting something else. And here's the biggest problem too. If there's 2 Stacys and 2 Alphas and 2 Chris's, one person is getting all the money. And the other Stacy, the other Chris is not getting his money or her money, right? So metadata is so vital, guys. I can't stress it enough. But guess what? My Metadata Monday room on Clubhouse is very small. An average of 40 people are in there because nobody wants to really talk about this. This is where the money is. This is where the money is. Go on.
So it's interesting because I spoke to an artist who was a platinum artist back in the day, and this person essentially said she had to go and clean up everything. So the point is, honestly, artists should have spreadsheets. You should have a spreadsheet categorizing all the information each release. Now, let's first just start with one important form of metadata, that is your ISRC code, right? So that's your International Standard Recording Code. And you can purchase your own registrant code on, well, for the US, because right, every country has their own like kind
USRS, yeah.
Yeah, what is it, Keith? What's the website?
USISRC.org. USISRC.org. But I want to talk really quickly about that, and I want to hear from the other guys too. It's not just getting that ISRC, right? So here's how the music industry works currently. Let's say I'm a peanut butter manufacturer. I use this example all the time. And I manufacture peanut butter, a brand of peanut butter, right? And I manufacture thousands of bottles of peanut butter. And I then distribute those boxes of peanut butter jars to Walmart. And then Walmart slaps their barcode onto my jar of peanut butter. What do you think happens? Anybody?
When that item
right?
and Walmart's going to get credit for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what the music industry does and has done, and not really given privy to many artists, when you go to CD Baby, DistroKid, or TuneCore, and they ask you, do you have an ISRC code, or would you like us to give you one? Now, they're not doing anything wrong. Many artists starting out might need to take an ISRC code, right? But generally, I need you guys to understand this. When you go and you take their ISRC code, It is your ISRC code. They give it to you for free, right? They give it to you for free. However, just like your US passport, when the US government issues that US passport, you own it. It's your name and likeness in that passport, but who also owns it?
Government.
The US government. So it's the same situation with these distributors. They give it to you, but they also own it. When that ISRC is scanned by a digital retailer, whose name do you think appears on that barcode?
Distro CD Baby Tune Core.
That's correct. And by law, any revenues generated from your song with CD Baby's ISRC code on it, the revenue has to go to CD Baby. It has to go there. That's from your song. Now, they will take off whatever they have to take off from the top because they have to purchase these ISRCs. They're giving it to you for free, but they have to purchase them. So obviously, they have to make back that money somehow, right? They're going to take off the top and distribute the rest to you, right?
Yeah, and I just want to add in, because I don't want it to seem like it's too complicated. Like you purchase a registrant code. Right now, I believe, how much is it now? $99?
$95.
$95.
Like that.
And then you create your own codes from that registrant code. So when CD Baby gives you those codes, you're using their registrant code, and then with that year and the country code, right?
It's not just purchasing the ISRC codes. There's a three-part process to this thing. So the first thing to do is to purchase your ISRC codes, right? There's two other processes you have to do to ensure that the revenue flows directly to you. The second thing you have to do, you have to go to gs1us.org. GS1 is the global company, and Alpha can attest to this because he's gone through this process. GS1 is the global company that issues barcodes to every single product in the globe. Right? Are we still here?
Yep.
Yeah, we're still here. Okay. I'm just showing people, if you can see here, this is the breakdown.
That's PPL.
This is from PPL. Yeah. This would be UK.
Yes.
But here in the US, it would say US.
Right, but this is the ISRC, right?
Yes, so I'm showing them the ISRC.
Once you have the registrant code, you have that registrant code, right? That's yours. You get 100,000 codes in that block, and you can create 100,000 codes from that registrant code. But you also, so that's the first part. The second part is that you have to go to GS1. GS1 issues barcodes and barcodes products globally. Every single product you have, your headphones, your laptop, your car, your washing up liquid, they all have barcodes on them that are issued by GS1. Why? Because it's a product, and to keep track of sales and to track that revenue and to deliver that revenue in the right place, they use those barcodes. Now, your song is a product. It's the same thing. And you have to barcode that product, but you got to make sure that your name or your entity's name is on that barcode. So GS1, you have to go to GS1 and get a license, apply for a license where your name or your entity's name is embedded in that license. So when the digital retailers scan your song, it is Alpha23 or Alpha23's label or company name that shows up, which means by law, any revenues generated from that product has to go to Alpha23, right? The third process of that, right? So after you get the ISRCs, you get your license, then you have to go to a coder, a master coder, who then encodes your name into the license or your entity names into that license, and then it sits properly in the system, in the music system. So anywhere in the world that goes, and that barcode is scanned, they're going to see Alpha23.
So who is this master coder? Just explain this real quick. Is this like a service or?
Yes, so it's something that I offer through my organization. I'm partnered with a guy called Chester Wilkins. He is the master coder, meaning he is the only one that does this.
What?
Only one. He is the only one that does this. This is a gentleman that should probably been on this conference. But just to give a short background about him, he discovered this issue back in 2008, and he created this process to actually fix this problem in the music business. Now, the problem he's fixing is that he's taken the flow of revenues that are going into pockets it should not really be going into and putting it back into the hands of the artist. That's what this process does.
What's his name again?
Chester Wilkins. He's on Clubhouse, right?
All right, well,
so if you want to go through this process, you go through me first. I do all the curation of the metadata. I make sure that you're all straight, that everything's correct, and then I deliver that information to him, and then he codes your music and make sure that it's flowing correctly. And guys, I've seen for myself on the back end where literally you can look at songs in the music business and you will see NA, meaning the ISRC and the codes are not active. Not active. This process turns on your codes in the system so that any digital system that are scanning your product, it's all active.
I really thought, like, I'm gonna be honest, like I thought the mastering engineer put this information in when they master the record.
This has nothing to do with the
mastering engineer, like the guy who masters your stuff.
Yeah, like I thought they put like the grace note and all that. Like honestly, I really didn't know how it embedded.
Information is going to get coded on that on the back end and the metadata that you would have on the wave file.
Right.
But
that's just data.
Sure, you based on my engineers that I work with. Yeah, they're only going to put their most.
It's like
I mean, I would be surprised if they even had to fill in things like BPM. They may have to fill in some of that information, but a lot of it, I think, just gets encoded in the fact that it's a wave, and so that information is just there, and it's just transferred from you to your distributor. But really, honestly, when you think about uploading a song on DistroKid, for example, you have to input all that data yourself. The only thing that Keith spoke to that you don't input yourself, I think, and I have to double check this, and it may be different from distributor to distributor, is the barcode information. But he's spot on when he refers to the coding information around the ISRC code, right? And there's always an opportunity for you to pre-input that. And
let's get some things clear. The mastering engineer putting in information in your song, you can do that yourself.
Right.
That's not something the mastering engineer has to do. There's a special thing that he does, right? Anyone can do it, right? If you have the software. But that information that goes into the song has nothing to do with what I just spoke about with the license.
Right.
Nothing to do with that.
And when he said license too, one way to understand that is a UPC code. That's like a way everyone can kind of understand what that is, like your UPC in a way.
I mean, it pretty much is in a way. It's your barcode, your universal barcode. So
but
same thing.
But I want you guys to understand too that when you're, as an independent artist, if you're delivering your assets through a digital distributor like DistroKid, CD Baby, TuneCore, etc. Number one, if they don't allow you to insert your own ISRCs and UPCs, run.
Right.
DistroKid does not allow you to use your own UPC codes, and they tell you that on the website. They tell you that you can enter your own ISRC, but you have to use our UPC. And they also tell you that when you use our UPC, you will see DK UPC on that, on the thing.
Interestingly enough,
secondly,
on that point for a second, where that has some deviation is if a song comes down or you're putting the song back up on the site, in which case then they will ask you to input the UPC because that's how they link it back to the original submission. So if, let's say, a song comes down for whatever reason, and then it's going back up, then you're going to re-input your ISRC and you're going to re-input the original UPC, right? But
which was this.
Yeah, in the case of DistroKid, there's no way on the front end to actually input a UPC.
Your own UPC.
Use theirs.
Right. Wow. The second, that's very important to note, guys. It's very, very important to note because this is about ownership. It's about ownership, right? The second thing to note is that when you're delivering songs through these digital aggregators, you do not need to enter your metadata in the file. Now, you're usually delivering WAV files. WAV files don't really hold metadata anyway.
Right.
You don't need to put anything in the file. You're just entering the information on the system, entering your ISRC and uploading that WAV, because stores do not take, stores ignore any metadata that you personally deliver. They do not pay attention to that. And as far as I know, iTunes, if they see metadata in your file, they will take it out, right? So no need to put anything. Don't tell your mastering engineer to put anything in the file at all. It will be ignored. The only time you put metadata in your file is every other time you're sending your file somewhere. So like a radio station, a label, a publisher, TV network, etc., etc. But do not enter. You don't need to enter metadata in the file when you're delivering it to the stores. Right?
Okay,
Very
one
important to
last
know.
question. How is it connected? How does it connect if it's not actually in the file? Then how do you, like, if it plays, how do I know? You know what
Because
I'm
you're entering the metadata on the platform. So if, let's say, if you use DistroKid or CD Baby, they've got a form to fill out where you enter the metadata there, and they deliver that metadata. But you don't need to enter metadata in the file because they're not going to look at it. They're not going to pay attention to that.
Okay.
And in fact, to that point, to give you a little bit more insight in that. So on a DistroKid, and I use as an example TuneCore, that's another one that I've distributed to, a bunch of times. You really are only inputting the most basic information about the song. I don't even know that you really even need to input the time, because what happens on the back end with DistroKid is that they have an AI bot now. And you'll note that if you go to a bunch of different sites, you can just pull down all your metadata now without even having to really worry about inputting it on the front end, because key, song type, and all of this is now determined by algorithms. And so it is all pulled down digitally anyway. So BPMs and all this stuff, the key in which the song is, even the mood of the song is already determined by algorithms.
Wow.
Yeah, but if there's a free fill,
right, and that's where that what Keith does is very different on the key input, right, and that's the sites that support.
No, what I'm saying is if you're still delivering your own metadata through these platforms, still enter the data. Still enter, because you are the original, you are the superior
but my point
source.
is, there's no fill for that. Like I'm just,
there is. So on most,
well, if there is, let's move forward a little bit. I'm sorry.
Let me get this part out. If on most sites, there is a form that tells you to input all the information. There's a reason why they're asking you to input that. But yes, there are also algorithms that pick up the information.
And real quick, so it's important, just like with things like Sound Exchange, right? If you want to, raise your hand if you have joined Sound Exchange. I want to see who in here. Just put your little hand thing up. I can't really see, the little hand emoji or whatever. Because if you notice on Sound Exchange, right, you have to submit a repertoire sheet. And you could even, if you want to, use that as a basis just to start like your metadata basically. Yes, because that's what they ask for. So that's why they need your ISRC code, etc. And then I want to spend time on it, because we could literally do a whole thing on metadata, but I want to try to move into the NFT space as well. But there's also an important code called the ISWC, which I know Keith can talk about, but we should come together and do this again. But Keith mentioned an important point it's about ownership. It's about showing that you own your creations. That's the most important thing. And that's when I learned about NFTs. I was like, oh, look, this is a way to ensure that the artists have ownership over their works. This is a way that we can break down the existing paradigm of the music business, where we have these situations and these deals. And now we have, even as, independent artists, these opportunities. So I want to move into NFTs, which stands for non-fungible token. And I'd like to bring Chris into this conversation, who's been so patiently there with that really dope bookshelf behind him. That shit's dope.
It's completely fake.
And talk to us about, what can you just explain in layman's terms? I know you're not a layman, but about what is an NFT?
Oh yeah. So the big thing with NFTs is really it's all about metadata. You're basically connecting metadata to a file of some kind. Like, so I have some clients that make 3D movies, and it's like Pixar. It's like 2.5 minutes. And so that's a huge file that's stored. And a lot of people think that when they buy the NFT, they're getting that file, but it's weird. It depends on how it's set up. Really, you're almost buying like the title to a home. You're buying the proof that you own that file. But that's something that I was cautioning people about with NFTs. You have to know about the storage, and you have to know what you're buying, because it's like if I bought a title to a house that I've never seen. When you get there, the house may be there. It may not look like what you think it looks like. And that happens a lot. There was a recent project, and it was an NFT project, and everyone invested in it. And all the devs, it was called the Dead Raccoon or Secret Raccoon Society or something. They just walked off with all the money. And the people said, okay, can we just have the images that we bought? And they were like, no, you didn't buy the images. Like, you bought the NFT, but you don't own the image. The image is actually owned by the artist. It was really messy. So it's like the wild, wild west out there. And the beautiful thing about NFTs, I think where it's affecting music publishing so much is, and Stacy, I'm sure you've gone through this, as a lawyer, a lot of times in publishing, the problem is you can't find the contract. And the great thing is in the blockchain, you have the contracts. And I've had that issue a lot of times with clients where even the label or the major publishers, nobody had the contract. And, it's nowhere. It's literally nowhere, which is crazy,
So and I want to break it down even into a more simpler explanation, because some people are like, what is an NFT? And so I want to take you all the way down to like how someone explained to me, and I love this explanation of essentially, like, if you think about a token, right? If you think about cryptocurrency in general, right? It's like money, right? And it's like you can't tell one from the other. So just like, say you have a jar of pennies, you shake them up, you pull it out, you can't really tell one from the other. So that's, in general. But then if you have an NFT, the value is in its rarity, or that it's unique, right? So let's say I took and put a unique sticker on every penny, right? Shake it up, I can tell. It has its own value. It's a different piece of work. So that's like the simplest way where somebody made me understand, oh, this is what an NFT is. It's a piece that has an intrinsic value. And like Chris said, you own that file, but that does not mean necessarily that you own the intellectual property as connected to that file, right? That has to be
discussed. That's something that's not discussed. And a lot of the quality of the platform matters. So like, I'll talk to artists and they'll say, oh, I want to do this NFT drop. And I'm like, yeah, but I need to know the platform, because there are some curators, they're only going to buy off of Super Rare, Maker's Place, and Foundation. By the way, for the people in the audience, these are all marketplaces where NFTs are sold. So based on that individual marketplace, that person buying it, they may be dropping $500,000 or $1 million. Okay, what's the marketplace? How do I know? Just like when you go to an auction house in real life, if I buy a table and you tell me it was owned by, I don't know, I don't know the Louis, but let's say Louis the 14th or whatever the right number is, you say, oh, there's Louis the 14th. Maybe, if I'm in the middle of Compton or if I'm in Mount Vernon, New York, maybe, you know what I'm saying? But if I'm in New York City and it's $1 billion building and all that, okay. But really, it really comes down to that person and whether you believe them or not. You weren't there when the table was made. You don't know everybody that owned it. And that's, and the art business is called provenance. And that is something that you have to understand in the NFT business. As an artist and as a buyer, you have to really make that buyer comfortable. If let's say I'm Alpha23 and I'm like, hey, I'm dropping this, da-da-da. Well, did he put it out or did something, I think it was Lil Uzi Vert. He just did a drop on Solana. But now all of a sudden, all of the tweets are gone from his side. You know, the project has no money in it. What happened? So now as people start to do these drops with these artists, major artists on major labels, you know, I'm not saying anything went wrong. I'm just saying, I don't, you know, no one knows. So now as a person that spent $3,000 on this artwork with, let's say, Lil Baby or Lil Uzi Vert or whoever it is, now when Alpha23 comes along as an artist, I'm saying, man, I already spent $10,000 this year and I didn't get anything. I was kind of cheated, or I don't even know what happened. Who's this guy? You know, even if you have a big hit record, that's kind of the business of NFTs that I'm dealing with, representing these artists, where now there is a credibility issue because so many people have dropped stuff and ran with the money. And the people, they don't think about the people that are left behind, y'all. And, you know, it makes it harder for Alpha23 now coming out with his dope project. People say, you know, is it real? Is it not? So, you know, I think now for new artists, I'm just talking to the artists in the audience, that's something you have to really understand with NFTs. Stacy's right. Don't let people just, oh, you can drop. Yeah, you can drop, you can mint. But like Alpha23 works with Vandal and people that are known in the space. These are people that have credibility. That's a big issue
So,
now. I'll be quiet, but yeah, I think
oh,
it's a
don't
really
be
big
quiet.
issue.
Those are great points. And this is the thing.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of terminology because Chris is so heavy in the space that I want to dial back on. Like minting, like what is minting, right? So minting, right? If you want to, it essentially is when you so I guess we even need to dial back. How many of y'all know, like, are familiar with the concept of the blockchain? Because you wouldn't even have NFT if it wasn't for blockchain. So y'all can put it in the chat. Who knows? Do y'all need an explanation on what the blockchain is? Let's just, Chris, let's give them a very short, somebody just Googled it.
Okay. Yeah. No, you don't have to
Precise
Google
definition.
it. Yeah, we'll just
Simple.
give it to you, just
ABC.
plain and
ABC it,
simple.
Chris.
Yeah, basically, let's start with the root of it. So there are people who need to put their money, because people say, why would I spend all this money on art? So we're going to get to the real core of it. There are people that have a lot of money. They might be your veterinarian or your doctor or a banker. They have millions of dollars. They need to do something with it tax-wise, and art is a great way to do it. They would rather buy art and do that. That's how people buy your NFT. They want to usually do something with taxes. So that's how art gets bought and sold. So now we know why art gets bought and sold. Why would you as a person put out your art? The reason why is you have fans over here. Let's say that you're a music artist. You have fans and you have curators. If I have Jimi Hendrix or MF Doom or somebody, there are people that will buy an MF Doom helmet. They'll pay a lot of money. That's one of one. You want to segment those two people as a musician. So you want to figure out who are your super fans that will spend a lot of money. Those are your NFT customers, right? Okay. So now those people, they want to buy the art and they want to be able to use it somehow. In order for them to do it, they need some kind of proof that Alpha23 put out this art and it's his actual art. And the way I always compare it is, if I give you a football and it says Tom Brady on it, you need to know Tom Brady signed that football. Now, there's a lot of ways to do it. I have no idea how you do it, but they have figured out how to make sure that from him signing it to you getting it, that's a Tom Brady football. We're in the same business where we're trying to make sure that what you bought is what Alpha23 made. So the process of doing that is called minting, and that gets complicated. But the very simple thing is that to understand, people will buy an Elvis Presley guitar. Some of them will buy it because they love Elvis Presley. That's a percentage. But a lot of them will buy it because they can resell it for more money. Anytime you create an environment where people can buy and resell stuff for more money in the art world, it almost doesn't matter how you do it. It could be basketballs, art, Ferraris, anything. Yeah.
And so, right. And so essentially how he's saying you're able to essentially authenticate is when you have networks of computers that are all servers that are all linked together all over the world, right? And they create a chain of information. And that's what they get blockchain. It's a chain of information where one thing is numbered and done. It's closed. It's verified by all the computers, like a ledger, right? Then the next block. So once that information is written in a block, it's closed, verified. The next block, I don't even think it's possible, but they say it's extremely difficult to break through to a block that's already been closed and verified. So that's why they call it a blockchain. And that's how you're able to like verify the information and it's more authentic. The other thing about it is as far as the NFT space, right? It started with art. We all know that, right? It started with actual just artwork. And that's where we see the most success. And then it moved into the music space, right? Mm-hmm. And like Chris was saying, there are several kind of like, what did you call it? Spaces to sell the work, like platforms.
Oh, yeah. Marketplaces. NFT platforms, yep. Mm-hmm.
And some are open, like a DistroKid, which is like OpenSea, right? So that means anyone can get in it. And then there are others where you have to actually apply to get in, like a super rare or a rareable. And there's so many, right? So I just want to stress.
And then also too, I think for musicians, what I've been stressing to them is that, you have to update your knowledge of the new sync game. Just like when Netflix came out, I would talk to musicians, Netflix, I know somebody at, whatever, studios, they didn't take Netflix seriously. And the people that did know all the people at Netflix. They have great relationships at Amazon Prime because they saw streaming coming, and they're the ones that are doing those syncs with those Netflix shows because they're the musical directors on those shows or whatever. And I'm saying in the same way, if I was an artist and I don't have a ton of placements with major labels and stuff, I would be connecting with these NFT artists early. Some of them are getting $150,000, $200,000 when they sell their art. I know I have clients where the music people have gotten 30 to 50% of $100,000 drop. That's 30 grand. And there are very few people getting those with placements right now, unless you're on a Roddy Ricch album or so, you're not getting placements. You're not making 30 grand off of one song on one album the day it sells, and you're not even waiting 9 months. No. So, you have to really be on your sync licensing game in 2021 as a music person. And you've got to really network with.
And what is a sync license? Let's break it down. Sync license.
Right. Yeah. So when that art gets sold, the beautiful thing is, let's say that Alpha23, he does something with a 3D artist. Like one of my clients, like he sold his art. It went for 140. So the guy that did the music with him, I think he got 30 or 50%. So whatever that is, 14, 20. So that's 42K, let's say at 30%. So if he made 40K on that first sale, right? But when that sells again with NFTs, you get royalties every time it sells. So let's say it sold for $1 million the next time. Then let's say that you have a residual of 10% every time it sells. In that next sale, let's say that you're getting 30% of that 10%. So now it's 100,000, and I always use that example, but you just got 30,000 again because you had 30% of 100,000 and it sold for $1 million. You see what I'm saying? So you've got to get in early, and the more that it flips and flips and flips and flips, you may make $400,000 over the next 10 years if that art sells 10 or 15 times. That to me, just like if the guy who wrote the song for Jeopardy, I think it was Jeopardy, it was one of those game shows, he makes $7 million a year in sync licensing off that one game show. So sync licensing, I think, is really underrated, and some people do it right. I'm not sure you guys would agree, and some people really don't get it. But if you get it with sync licensing, I mean, it's crazy. One game show, you're out of here.
So when we say sync license, we mean a synchronization license that gives them the right to use your music as a part of an audio visual work, right? So that's how if like you said, like if Jeopardy wants to use your music as a theme song, you know, when you get paid, and then you get a sync fee, a one-time fee, but then you get your performance royalties every time. So that's why the beauty was a beautiful thing with NFTs and visual artists, because particularly when an artist sold a piece of art, that was it. Like they sell the art. Like I might be a startup artist. I sold my beautiful print for $500, and then something happens and my value goes up to $1 million and they resell it. Me as the artist would get nothing. Right. And so now with NFTs, it had just changed the game for visual artists to give them that access to residual income that they wouldn't have. Now, as musicians, we were familiar with getting residual income, right? That was something that, you know, we would, you know, usually get. But now, like we said earlier, you can ensure that the intellectual property isn't getting, so you still own your masters, you still own the composition. You're not granting that to anyone. But when you release, I just want to be clear on this. When I talk to some of the top people in the NFT world, they're like, if it's a community. So if you are in here and feel like I'm just going to do a money grab, you know what I mean? I just want to drop my NFT and make $1 million. Like that's not realistic. It's a community. I'll almost say it's like a parallel community to what we see in the music business. So yeah, you have your stars in the music industry that you know. Okay, yeah. But in the NFT world, they got their own stars. So they looking at on this side like, okay, you know, but they know what has value. And so you have to actually be involved. They want you in these Discord chats. They want you involved in the community. They want to see your face. They want you to interact. It's not just like, you know, oh, I'm gonna just drop this joint. I don't even know anything about it. And then I'm gonna just drop it. Unfortunately, like anything, you have to market, you have to have your followers, and the people who purchase NFTs are NFT collectors. They're not just your average Joe on the street. Like, no, they are a particular segment of the population, people who have cryptocurrencies, they have wallets with NFTs. This is something that they do, right? So there's a whole different market of people that you have to actually connect with to even care about your NFTs. So that's, I just always like to stress that, because it's not just like, oh, like if you're marketing an album, you're marketing that one way, like, oh, just fans, you know, it's just my, you know, it's my fans or my people, or, you know, and that's fine. But those aren't the same people necessarily that are in the NFT world. And so
no, and that's and it works very similarly to the music business. Like if I was breaking a new artist, like I would say what, 25-50% of the time they're going to do a remake of an old song, you know, or some percentage of the time I'm going to put them on a song with an established artist. So I'm going to put Nicki Minaj on 5-star, whatever. You know, I'm going to put the person on a song with someone that has a following. You know, I'm saying there's certain formulas where you know that it's going to give you a better chance of success. In the same way, you know, people try to come into the space, but there are people here who are already the well-known artists in this space. My thing is, why not do collabs with those artists? It just makes more sense no matter, just like if I had a new actress, I would put her in a movie with a well-established actor. I'm not going to put her in a movie by herself. No one knows her. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So that to me, you know, yeah, you just, they show up and it's like, okay, let's say you're huge in Nashville or whatever. So why don't we connect you with somebody that has a rural audience? And then they'll say, oh, I know that singer. Oh, she's with, you know, something where you're connecting people. That's where I think some of it goes badly. And then also one thing too about royalties, it's not a pyramid scheme. You have to understand with royalties in the US, it's very unfavorable for artists. Like in Europe, they do that with royalties. You do get royalties when things sell over and over. It's just in the US, the laws are very pro. I mean, look at Facebook and everything. It's very pro large corporation in the US. But if you're being fair and you're talking about what's fair to artists, no, it's not. It's a pyramid scheme for the labels. I mean, but no, for artists, I mean, if it's a pyramid scheme, artists would get paid. Like artists get so little money. It's, you know,
yeah.
I mean, it's very bad for artists.
Yeah. And so on that note, let's bring it to Alpha to talk about what like draws you to that space? And like as an artist, what makes you want to work with NFTs, and what has your experience been in that world, Alpha?
Yeah. So thanks, Stacy. And it's funny because everyone on this call is somebody who I've had an opportunity to connect with, and it does all kind of come together at a central point, which is the central theme here is data. And I think I draw from everything everyone has said, and especially most recently, everything that was being said by Chris, in the sense that as an artist, if you relinquish control of your music to record labels, then you're essentially giving away all ownership and control for a very small piece of the pie. But if you look at the industry from the angle of who all connects to the music and how can I connect with those folks, and so you start thinking about sync licensing, synchronization through film, TV, theater, and other things of that nature, and NFT, which is also connecting with a new audience, which is also artists, which is visual artists, and then putting work together, then you can find and identify new revenue streams. There were several questions in the chat that really were very basic questions I want to touch on and answer some questions around that. So somebody asked, how do I mint an NFT? How do I get an NFT out there? So as Chris touched on, there are several platforms that exist today to support this industry. And you want to identify which platform do you want to put your work on first. There are some platforms that kind of have the general ubiquity of things, like a Walmart, if you will, or like an Amazon. One of those is OpenSea. That's probably the most popular platform I would suggest for selling or showcasing your NFTs. And so what you need to do is first, I'm admitting people in the room while I'm doing this, by the way, sorry. First, you want to make sure you have a wallet. And so you need to get yourself a cryptocurrency wallet. The best one I would recommend, and I'm not working for any of these people, no affiliation, this is all just direction. MetaMask, METAMASK. No coincidence that the word meta is in the title. MetaData. No coincidence that Mark Zuckerberg changed the name of his whole company to Meta, right? So
MetaVerse. We didn't even get into MetaVerse.
Right, MetaVerse, right? The whole MetaVerse. So you have you have your wallet, and so you get your wallet set up, and then you can set up your account with OpenSea, and then you connect those two. It's a very simple process. Once those two things are connected, then it allows you to do what we talked about today called minting, which is where it's as simple as just uploading two files, a piece of art, which is what Chris has been saying the whole time. So what you would do is find yourself somebody very popular in the space who says, yes, I want to work with you. Let's find somebody in the chat here. Patricia Marie East. And I think that you're pretty cool and I love your music. So let's do a collab. We'll do a collection, a limited edition. You drop 10 songs and I'm going to drop 10 pieces of art and we're going to put it on X platform and put it out there. So what you would simply do is they would upload the JPEG file to you, pretty small file, because when dealing with NFTs, there's a limit, a cap on how much file space you can have. Generally 100 megabytes is the top. And so that generally won't allow you to upload a WAV file in a video, for example, because a WAV file is going to be somewhere between 30 and 70 megabytes. And so you upload your MP3, they send you their JPEG, you upload their JPEG or whatever file, and then you upload your music, and then you hit the button. At that point, it is going to ask you for your first mint. And this is the ugly side of the industry that no one here has talked about today, but I'm going to talk about it. There's a cost associated with minting, and that cost comes in the form of this thing called gas, which is the same exact gas that you put in your car. It is just infinitely more expensive. And that is just the thing today when dealing with Ethereum, which is the most popular form of cryptocurrency to use in the minting universe today. It is just the one inherent hurdle that you're going to have to get over. Now, there are other options for where you mint, and there are costs that are much lower using some of the other platforms. Near is one of the platforms, again, no affiliation, but they have a much lower minting cost, a much lower sell and purchase cost as well. Gas is the cost that is necessary for a person who is on the blockchain to take your data, your metadata, like Keith said, and input it on a node on the blockchain. So essentially what it does is it takes that transaction and authenticates it on the blockchain. The person who does that job, that person charges a fee to do it. And today those fees are generally a couple of $100 based on the price of Ethereum. And that is just something you have to get around. by paying that ticket. So what you're going to do is you load up your wallet with Ethereum. Generally, I would just say buy a block of Ethereum, maybe just buy one, which means it's going to sound crazy to say, but you're going to spend $4,500 at today's prices. Once that's in your wallet, then you can start to move around this new world of yours, which is called minting, purchasing, and selling NFTs using Ethereum. Now, that was a lot of information, but what was beautiful about all of that is once you start moving around that world, as everyone has been on a call saying today, you're dealing with a whole bunch of people who see value in art. And the reason why Chris is working with people at Sotheby's, which is one of the top auction houses, Christie's is the top auction house in the world, is because the intersection of music and art has recreated value around music. And so you can now sell your music at any price point that you choose, because you're essentially creating this unique work that you're putting out there and saying, if somebody sees value in me and what I created, I'm allowing you to own it in a specific way. The same way Wu-Tang sold an album to Martin Saccarelli for $1 million is because
I want to cut in there.
Of that album.
I want to highlight what you just said in recreating value in music, because I think through streaming, I think that's just key. Yep. Through streaming, which did thing, I'm not gonna say it's all negative, but one of the things that it did do, that's another call.
You're not gonna say it, but I'm gonna do Kanye West today. It's negative, okay? If you watch the Kanye interview,
is that
negative, okay?
It made a whole generation of people
music's free.
Feel like music is free. So like, when me growing up, I'm not dating myself, but when a new album was coming out, we would be at the store.
$9.99.
We might
with cash money.
No, we was paying $16, $20 for the CD.
Yeah, $16. You're right.
We was waiting in line when that CD came out. Like we knew the release date. We was like, I'm gonna be at the store that day. I'm buying that. You know what I mean? It was valuable. It was like, $20
alone meant something. That CD didn't insert. That had pictures in there, like it had value.
And like, right. And even like back then, like $20 was like a lot of money then. You know what I'm saying? Like now $20 might be like, just $20. But back then that was a lot of money. You know what I mean? And so what the NFT game is doing is recreating the idea of the value and, creating like, this can be a rare piece. This can be, because when you think about musicians and artists, it's like music is the gift. Like I can do a song like that. I can create a song and I can create a work. And then just real quick, and then the artist knowing the value in your work, because a lot of times I have to remind my clients, like, your work is valuable. Like, look at, assets that you can pass down, right? The length of the copyright is your life plus 70 years. So this is something that you're creating that your grandkids can benefit from. Look at Bob Marley. You see what I'm saying? His kids still eating off of his legacy. So I always stress, and I'm gonna just always do this whenever I have this platform, understand the value of your work, even though to you, because it can come so easy, sometimes like, well, this is just this is just it. I can, just for lack of better words, shit out these songs, right? Whatever. But it's value in your creation. So just don't overlook that.
So yeah, let me paint a picture in the scenario and kind of outline it. So first of all, I think that when people release music, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I do an awful lot of music. I'm in the studio all the time. I do have an engineer and I do, work with a lot of different producers. And if anyone on this call is like me, then I don't think anyone, once you have a final body of work, I don't know that you can look at a song and not see the value in that, because you probably spent on a minimum end $500 just to create that piece of work, right? And so it's then funny that you take that $500 creation, one singular creation, and then put it on a platform that essentially devalues it down to zero, right? Because there's people on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the other platforms, and God bless them because they serve an important purpose, the platforms that is. But there are people on there who don't pay $9.99 a month to actually use the platform. They're just on there for free, right? They'll go to YouTube, they'll go to SoundCloud, they'll go to Spotify for free, and they'll go to Apple for free, but they won't pay. Now, with that, there's an inherent devaluation of your music. Now, what Spotify says, if a person is not going to actually value this and they're only paying $9.99 a month, and they're 1 in 20 people, then we cannot pay you as an artist $1 per song. I am one of the people who happens to be on the side of the Spotify argument here. Not as close to Spotify maybe as Spotify CEO, but I'm pretty close to Spotify in the sense that if I own Spotify, how do I make the economics work to pay artists what artists want to be paid? Because I hear artists say, well, I should be getting a quarter a song. And I'm like, the economics don't work. Spotify will go out of business. How could they possibly exist? Because there's, as we said on the phone on this call today, millions of artists out there. Now, most of those artists are not streaming big numbers, but if the people who don't stream are the ones who want to get paid the most per stream. You don't hear necessarily the top artists necessarily complaining as much about that because they have other revenue streams. Now, this is where all this comes together. Spotify says to you today, in order for you to make money on our platform, you have to have 1 million people streaming your music, period. Because if you stream your song 1 million times on Spotify, you're going to get paid $1,700, give or take. Again, 1 million streams, $1,700. Now, it's going to generally take you a lot of money to generate that many streams through marketing, sweat equity, your time, and cost, whether it's Facebook ads and other things, right? Now, that's 1 million people you have to generate to get there. Let's try this paradigm. Let's say you have 5,000 fans today. And this is where Stacy said community. And this is the most important thing I'm going to say about NFTs today. And this is the most important thing I've learned. NFTs and fans are intrinsically connected. If you don't have fans today, wait until you have fans before you dive into NFTs, because here's the key with NFTs. With NFTs, unless you have a big platform and people already know you, you have to bring your own fan base, because what you're going to do is this. You're going to mint 10,000 NFTs. I'm about to show you how to make money, real bread. You're going to mint 10,000 NFTs of a song and a piece of art. So you're going to get a nice piece of art created for your cover art. You're going to sell that to your fans exclusively, those 10,000 for $1 each. You can get 10,000 people to give you $1. Please tell me you can, because you're going to introduce them to NFT and you're going to explain to them that when they sell this thing in the future, they can make money, right? Show them Tory Lanez, show them other examples. Now, stage one, you sold 5,000 of your 10,000 NFTs. I know it sounds crazy, but you did it. You still have half of your NFTs sitting there in a bucket that you own. Your fan base grows over the course of a year from 10,000 people to 20,000 people. Your original fans have had a product that they have now owned for over a year that only they own. You can talk to them about reselling that NFT to your new fans, which those new fans will hopefully have never heard most of that product, and they will treat it like what it should be, a vintage piece of art they cannot get anywhere else. And some of your fans are going to look at it as that, just like a piece of merch or anything else. And what they're going to do is sell that. When they sell that piece of art that you created, that they bought for $1, they sell it for $5. Like you said already, you're going to get 10% of that royalty on that sale. One, right? Which means you're going to get 50 cents on that transaction. 5,000 times 50 cents. That's $2,500 you just made again. But the person who sold that, they just made $4. You have just created a marketplace within your own fan base that will then start to recycle your own product. And as your fan base grows, that product that you keep creating that is unique for that fan base will circle within that audience. That's what happens today when you go to a concert. What's the one thing you go to every small show and concert, every artist has on the table somewhere in the back of the show?
Yeah, the merch for sure.
Because it's a memory that is unique to that situation. Well, why not make the music itself unique?
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And that's what we're talking about today.
I don't mean to cut you off, Alpha, but we got 10 minutes left. So I just wanted to open it up to some questions as well. Because I know people with all this, I know this is a lot. It's a lot of information to take in, for sure. But this stuff it's like, I'm telling you, it moves so much and you really have to stay on top.
It is a lot. You're not gonna learn it all in this one call. Let's be clear.
It's a lot. So you have to like really kind of get into it. But I have a question here from Cherie. She said, so the real value of the NFT is the merch and not the music itself. I think she meant merch because it said merch.
Yes, merch. And so let me explain what I meant there. It's not the value of your NFTs. Your merch and your music are separate. What I'm saying is that just like when you take a t-shirt and you go to a show, you only go to that show with 1,000 t-shirts. And if you sell it to that one show, that piece of merch becomes unique and it at some point becomes vintage. That is what you can do with your music by limiting how much music you putting out there by selling it as NFTs. By selling,
like you'll see that with Westside. Like he'll sell. Westside is really good with that, and I'm still talking to him about the NFT stuff.
Westside Gunner.
But yeah, that's one of my other clients. So he does limited drops of clothing, right? He does, and he makes a lot of money with doing these limited drops. And then what happens is people will resell. So once the drop they're sold out, then people will go and resell and double, triple, quadruple the price of it. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is like the value going up.
And you're doing that with your music.
The next question is, what are some of the communities within the NFT spaces for songwriters and collaborations?
Twitter is the #1 platform for NFT. Just go on Twitter, type in NFT in the search bar, and then just connect there, and then start there. It is no different than how you connect in the streets. You got to start shaking hands, and like I think it was Chris who said it, or I think it was Stacy said it earlier. You got to be authentic. You can't be going in there just trying to cash grab and steal information. It's a collaborative community of people who are working to build. It's a lot of creators in there, all stripes and colors, a lot of coders. You're going to be dealing with coders. Chris can tell you all day long, he probably talks to coders and developers probably more than he talks to artists these days. There's a lot of artists in there, of course. And so you have to just go in there with an open mind and be ready to learn, because it's a lot of information.
Yeah, and another like we talked about Discord. I just put a Discord link for something called Arpeggi. So that's an actual where you can create, I believe it's creating music, actually creating on the blockchain. So there are some now music services where you can actually create like directly into the blockchain. So that's one link I put in there. Another one is Telegram. And I'll put in another one. There's Fake Rares. I mean, it's like, it's so many different platforms, but definitely you want to get on Discord, and you can kind of search like music NFTs and stuff like that. But I mean, it's literally Alpha, you're on Audius. What is it? Audius, right?
Link you guys to Audius right now. I'm gonna send you my
send a link to Audius. That's like a what is it? Isn't it streaming through the blockchain?
Yeah, so it's on the blockchain. Your music is on the blockchain.
Your music is on the blockchain. Mm-hmm. So yeah, essentially, I mean, there are a lot, and it's a lot in that research. But like he said, like Twitter, getting on Twitter, because that's where you can find so much information. And Chris, are they still doing a lot on Clubhouse? Because I have not been on Clubhouse. I kind of
I think most of the people kind of left Clubhouse. I see a lot of people in Twitter Spaces now, a little more.
Yeah, I've seen a lot in that too.
On the NFT side.
Yeah. In what? In what?
Twitter Spaces. I guess it's like Twitter's version of Clubhouse.
Yes, I know.
And then I see people with private Discords, like Illmind, the producer. He has one and stuff like that. And then they'll talk about NFTs and stuff.
You generally have to be invited to the Discords. That's why I didn't put that out there. You start in Twitter, create the relationship, and then you get the invite to the Discords.
Good.
Rundown. Okay. Any other questions? I want to make sure. Let's see. We have any questions? Oh, somebody asked and you answered that, how you meant NFTs. I think somebody.
Yep.
We already
If anyone wants to connect with me, I'm gonna put my LinkedIn my link tree in the bio here or in the chat. Connect with me on IG, DM me. I'm active. I'm always on Instagram all day long. Anyone can attest. Follow me on IG and let's connect, because we're working on some things on the back end right now to help bridge this gap. Because I can tell you that Chris, he's forgotten more about NFTs than I know. So I'm not even going to compete on a knowledge basis. But what it is that it's a lot to learn, and there's a lot of relationships. And so we can kind of start to help bridge that gap. And so connect with me on IG, and I'm on the same journey a lot of you guys are on. I've passed through a lot of the gates that you're passing through, so I can help get you in the right hands very quickly. So relevant.
And also the same thing here. You can also DM me on Twitter. Just mention this and Stacy's name, whatever, Alpha. Keith, whatever, so that I connect, and then whatever you need help with or whatever, I'll connect you or answer anything. I'm here to answer whatever, you know. So yeah, it's all good vibes.
Yeah.
Oh, we just had some good questions. Go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry. Go
I just
ahead.
want to say really quickly that just remember too, just like Chris and Alpha was saying that, you know, you can do the NFTs, but if your fan base isn't great, it might not work out that well. Metadata undergirds all of this. If the metadata isn't there, none of this makes sense.
Yep.
So before you even think about blockchain and metadata, blockchain and NFTs and all these things, you've got to have your metadata straight or it will not work.
It's the fact that
make sure.
I got with Keith, and when you Google me, my Google profile looks the way it does because I got with Keith. And that's to me.
And you know what too, and to that point, and I've been saying this to people, you know, get an entertainment lawyer like Stacy Epps or like myself, like we're gonna set up your back end stuff. We understand publishing and all of that. Some of y'all, I'm just gonna say it, and it has to be said. You know, some of y'all, you know, your lawyers are disorganized. They're coming to the table with Stacy and I. You know, they don't have their business together. They definitely don't have your business together. You know, you don't have your spreadsheets together. And that's all everyone is saying. Every contract you get, who's gonna hold it? Give it to your grandmother. Give it to your, you know, Stacy is the person that should be holding that. You know, your spreadsheets every year, Stacy should be getting a copy of that. You are gonna move 5 times in the next 10 years. You're not gonna have any of that stuff. You've gotta give it to somebody like Stacy. I can't say that enough. You know, this metadata, if you don't keep track of it, the publisher will lose it, the label will lose it. I'm telling you, you know, whether you call any name you want, but somebody's got to keep track of all of that stuff. And you got to turn it into her December 31st every year. She puts it in your file. You know, you've got to be meticulous nowadays in the new business, because those old days, like those guys you listen to from the 70s and all, you know, these days, like Keith was saying, it is so high tech. You've got to have a team where they really are recording this stuff. That's how I feel about it.
And the artists from the 70s are coming back now. Like, I need help using my stuff. And I'm not, you know, so that's a whole nother game of the older artists, or if you release music back in the day, you need to make sure that's cleaned up as well. Like, I know even with my old music, it's a mess. I help other artists, you know, it's like the doctor's the worst at taking care of themselves. Yeah, okay, so that happens sometimes, but that is true. Like, as far as your old music, like in everything, don't think because it's old, no, because there could be money sitting on the table.
And you know what, and now you're doing the syncs, and now you're doing the syncs for TV. Now you're somewhere like Alpha23. Now you're doing it for NFTs. Now you got to keep track of your publishing. You're running a major operation. Now guess what? Now, Keith and Alpha can break down about 1199s, which you probably haven't thought about. All those people have to get paid. You know, or else you're going to pay money on money you paid to people. They're supposed to pay money on that. So you've got to have Stacy coordinating with the accountant to make sure that all the royalties, all the people that did work with you got paid. If you produced that project, you got to coordinate all that stuff. I guess the big thing to me is this stuff is complex. And you've got to have, like, Alpha has a team, like me, Stacy, like we're all working together for him. You've got to have 3 and 4 people now. You can't just jump into NFTs and you're going to do taxes in H&R Block. No, you're not. You're going to be in jail. You've got to have a group of people working on that. These are complex taxes. And, you know, we all know artists that have gone to jail for it. You know, this is real stuff, you know.
I want to thank you guys so much. This panel went excellent. You all came in at the final hour. I appreciate you. And again, I think everybody put their information on the chat. So please follow us, reach out to us. We appreciate your time and attention. And I wish the best of luck to all of you in your journey. Love the art that you create, honor it, and get the business right if you try to be a pro. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna say. Peace, y'all. Peace and love. Thank you.
Okay, y'all. Peace. All right.
Thank you guys very much for this. That was awesome. Excellent information. Everybody unmute. Thank yous. Cheers. Yay.
Big unmute.
Thank you. Thank you.
So much.
Follow back. Follow me. I follow
When's the next one?
information.
Do this again.
The Matrix got
Thanks,
somebody.
Stacy.
All right, take care, guys.
Informative.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank
you.
you. Connect with me if y'all have questions that were like a little bit not covered here. Connect with me on IG. I follow back too. So if you follow me, I'm gonna follow you back. Just DM me and let me know that you came from this this event.
Perfect. Thank
All right.
you.
One love. Take care, y'all.
Most definitely.
One love, brother.
All right.